welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling maybe one of the biggest challenges in modern life, longevity, but not just living longer.
Right.
We're talking about the difference between just dragging out your years versus actually living them well. We're talking about your health span.
It's the critical distinction, really.
Yeah.
Look, medicine has done an incredible job of extending our lifespan. That's a huge win.
No doubt.
But the unintended consequence is that we've kind of swapped the problem of dying early for, well, the problem of dying really slowly.
Spending years or even decades in decline.
Exactly. And the numbers are they're kind of stark. Something like 80% of us will be dealing with a chronic health condition by age 65.
So what we're really trying to do in this deep dive, using insights from a top longevity expert, is give you a better operating manual for your body.
It's about agency. It's about realizing you can redefine what what the expert calls the marginal decade looks like. It doesn't have to be about decline.
Okay, so let's start right there. We need a clear definition. If lifespan is digital, on or off, alive or dead, what is health span? The analog hormone.
Span is, well, it's the period of your life you spend in good health, free from those major diseases that just sideline people. And it's a spectrum. It's graduated. You're always somewhere on that line.
And it's not just one thing, right? The sources break it down.
They break it down into 3 core domains, and you really have to pay attention to all of them.
Let's run through them.
So first up is the cognitive domain. This is the whole range from being, super sharp and on top of your game.
To the other end?
Yeah, the other end. Severe dementia. Now, what's interesting is that some things, like your raw processing speed, that starts to decline pretty predictably.
Even in your 20s or 30s.
Right. But, and this is a big but, your crystallized intelligence, that's your wisdom, your judgment, your ability to connect the dots, that can actually increase with age.
Okay, so the goal is to protect the engine so we can actually use that wisdom.
That's it, exactly. Then the second domain is the obvious one, physical health.
Muscle, strength, cardio.
All of it. Preserving your muscle mass, your strength, your cardiorespiratory fitness. This is what most people think of, and for good reason, because that physical decline can feel pretty constant as you get older.
And the third one, which the source is highlighted as being different.
Yeah, this one is fascinating. It's the emotional domain.
So happiness, resilience.
Mental well-being, life satisfaction, all of that. And what's so interesting is that this domain isn't really tethered to age in the same way. It doesn't have that predictable downward slope.
So you're not doomed to be a grumpy old person.
Not at all. In fact, many people report being happier and more content later in life. So that's a huge lever we can pull on.
That's a relief. So, okay, let's get some context here. This problem of slow death is it's a new problem, historically speaking.
It's brand new. For almost all of human history, we faced what the expert calls fast death.
Infection, getting mauled by a bear, childbirth.
Trauma, exactly. We died, on average, in our late 30s, and then came medicine 1.0 and 2.0, antibiotics, sanitation, basic surgery, miraculous stuff.
It doubled our lifespan. I mean, that's a huge win.
A massive success story. But that success created the modern problem, slow death.
We solved dying early, but now we just deteriorate for a longer time.
We do. Instead of dying from pneumonia at 38, we live to 85, but might spend the last 15 of those years disabled by one of the 4 horsemen.
Okay, let's name them. These are the big 4 chronic diseases that rob us of that quality of life.
Number 1, and still the global champion, is cardiovascular disease, so heart attacks and strokes.
Number 2.
Cancer. Number 3 is neurodegenerative disease, think Alzheimer's. And number 4 is the whole spectrum of metabolic diseases.
So that's everything from insulin resistance and prediabetes all the way to full-blown type 2 diabetes.
Exactly. And we have such a distorted view of how these things actually play out. You mentioned Alzheimer's, and people just think memory loss.
But that's not what kills you.
No. Alzheimer's slowly dismantles the body's protective systems. Most people with advanced Alzheimer's die from complications like aspiration pneumonia because they literally lose the ability to swallow safely. It's that slow, grinding decline is what we are fighting.
Which leads to this massive critique of our current medical system. The expert's Titanic analogy is, it's perfect.
It really is. Our current system, Medicine 2.0, is brilliant for acute problems. A broken leg, a bacterial infection, it's amazing. But for these chronic, slow-burn diseases, it waits until the iceberg is right in front of the ship before it even thinks about turning. It waits until the disease is clinically obvious.
By which point it's way, way too late.
Far too late. Take type 2 diabetes. A doctor usually only steps in when your A1C, which is your average blood sugar, hits 6.5%.
That's the official diagnosis line.
Right. But the metabolic damage, the insulin resistance, that's been building for 10, maybe 15 years before that diagnosis ever happens. The ship has already hit the iceberg.
So if we have to act earlier, how much earlier are we talking? This part of the research was, frankly, shocking.
It is genuinely shocking. We're talking about needing to pay attention in our 20s, maybe even earlier.
Our 20s?
Yes. The expert points to autopsy studies done on young adults, people in their 20s who died from things like car accidents. Their arteries already showed clear signs of atherosclerosis.
So the process of your arteries clogging up is already underway when you're young and feel invincible.
It starts at birth. That process is already happening.
Okay, so the immediate reaction for anyone listening who is, in their 40s or 50s is probably panic. Like, is it too late for me? Did I miss the boat?
And that's such a fair question. The answer is an emphatic no. It is absolutely never too late to improve your trajectory.
But the urgency is real.
The urgency is very real. You have to get over that false sense of security people have in their late 40s when they feel fine. That feeling it's misleading. The data is stark. Half of all men who have a first heart attack have it before age 65.
This isn't some old age problem. It's a middle age crisis.
It's a middle age crisis. And this gets to the biggest myth about all of this.
That your genes are your destiny.
That the die is cast. That it's all genetics. And while genes play a role, of course they do, the vast majority of your health span is dictated by your choices, your lifestyle. You have so much agency.
Which is why we need to take control, because the system isn't set up to help us here. The sources are pretty blunt about the gaps in how doctors are trained.
They are. Doctors are trained to be amazing crisis managers. They know pharmacology, they know surgery. But ask them about the specifics of nutrition, exercise physiology, sleep science.
They get very little training.
Shockingly little. They can tell you to eat healthy and exercise, but they can't tell you why your healthy oatmeal is spiking your blood sugar into the stratosphere. That forces you, the individual, to take ownership.
Okay, so if we need to take ownership, we need data. Which brings us to the first really actionable tool, continuous glucose monitors, CGMs.
The CGM is a complete game changer. It's a tiny little sensor you wear that gives you a 247 real-time feed of your blood sugar levels.
And just to be clear, this isn't just for diabetics, right?
Not at all. This is for anyone who wants to understand their metabolic health. See, glucose is our body's main fuel, and evolution made us incredibly good at avoiding too little glucose.
Because that kills you fast. Starvation.
Right. But evolution never prepared us for the modern world of, constant food and sitting in chairs all day. It never had to deal with the problem of chronic excess glucose.
And that excess does damage over time.
It does. When your glucose is chronically high, even if it's not in the diabetic range, it starts binding to proteins and damaging small blood vessels in your eyes, your kidneys, your heart, your brain.
So the key insight is that even in the quote-unquote normal range, lower is better.
Lower is better. And the CGM gives you this incredible aha moment. People are shocked to see which so-called healthy foods, like a fruit smoothie or a granola bar, send their blood sugar on a rocket ship.
It turns nutrition from guesswork into personal data science.
Precisely. You see exactly how your body responds.
Okay, that covers the metabolic side. Let's move to the physical domain.
Sure.
The sources use this really powerful mental model, the centenarian decathlon.
I love this idea. The centenarian decathlon forces you to be specific. It says, okay, you want to live to be 100. What do you actually want to be able to do in that last decade?
It's not just be healthy. It's
I want to be able to get on the floor and play with my great-grandkids and get back up without help. Or I want to lift my own carry-on into the overhead bin.
These are athletic events that you have to train for now.
You have to. And that connects to the glider analogy. To make the glider go far into your 80s and 90s, you have to launch it from a really high altitude. You need to be very fit in your 40s and 50s.
So let's get specific about that training. Cardio. It's not just about slogging it out on a treadmill for hours.
No, you have to be strategic. You're targeting two very different energy systems. The first is what we call Zone 2, aerobic efficiency.
And how would I know if I'm in Zone 2?
The practical definition is you're working at a pace where you could hold a conversation, but you really don't want to. It's a little too breathless for a comfortable chat.
And what's the prescription here, the time commitment?
You want to work up to about 3 hours a week. That's the foundation. 3 60-minute sessions. That's where you build this incredible mitochondrial efficiency.
Okay, that's the base. What about the other end? The high-intensity stuff.
That's for your peak aerobic output, your VO2 max.
Yeah.
This is pushing into the top gears. The good news is you need much less of it, only about 30 minutes a week.
Just 30 minutes. And how does that look?
The classic protocol is interval training, something like 4 minutes of really hard effort, followed by 4 minutes of easy recovery. Repeat that 4 or 5 times once a week. That's how you maintain your top-end capacity.
All right, finally, strength training. And the sources emphasize it's not just about lifting heavy. It's about controlling the weight. It's about the breaks.
This is maybe the most overlooked part of training for longevity. Every lift has 2 parts. The concentric, where the muscle shortens, like curling a dumbbell up.
And the eccentric.
And the eccentric, where the muscle lengthens under load, like lowering that dumbbell back down slowly.
Why is that slow lowering part so important?
Because as we get older, we lose power. And most falls, most injuries, don't happen because you're weak going up. They happen because you can't control yourself going down.
Going downstairs or slipping on a curb.
Exactly. That's your body's inability to decelerate. That's a failure of your brakes, your eccentric strength.
So we have to train that specifically. It's not enough to just lift and drop the weight.
Not at all. You have to be deliberate. If it takes you 1 second to lift the weight, it should take you 4 or 5 seconds to lower it. You should feel that tension. Training your brakes is absolutely non-negotiable.
Okay, let's pull all this together. It's been a ton of information, but it all comes down to a few key actions. The big one is agency.
It's all about agency.
You have to recognize that this stuff starts early, way earlier than you think. But it is never, ever too late to change your trajectory.
Right. And you need to use tools like a CGM to get personalized data so you're not flying blind.
And then be really deliberate with your exercise. That means building a big base of 3 hours of Zone 2 cardio a week.
And then topping it off with just 30 minutes of that high-intensity VO2 max work.
And critically, when you're strength training, focus on that slow, controlled, eccentric movement. Train your brakes.
And if you zoom out from all of that, from the personal to the systemic, you have to ask a really provocative question.
Which is?
Think about the insane amount of money our society spends in the last year or two of a person's life on these last-ditch efforts.
When it's often too late.
Exactly. What if we took just half of that money and invested it decades earlier? Subsidized healthy food, gave everyone a free CGM, paid for certified trainers.
The quality of life would skyrocket, and we'd probably end up saving money in the long run.
We would absolutely save money. But the system is slow to change. It has enormous inertia. And that means you cannot wait for it to save you. You have to be your own first and best advocate.
A powerful and essential challenge. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us into the science of healthspan. We encourage you to start thinking about what's in your own centenarian decathlon. We'll see you on the next deep dive.